We're going to do something a little different today. Normally I'm reading a script when I'm standing in front of this wall, a script that I've written on a particular topic that I want you to know about. But today I'm doing an unscripted video in which I'm covering some of the news stories that have developed over the last 4 or 5 days that I think you need to know about. So we're going to start with reports on Twitter that have caught my attention of what appears to be a Porsche Taycan on fire in a garage in Florida. We don't know a huge amount. The account that shared the video, which is at VW Charts, they've posted some Tesla stuff in the past. They don't have a particularly high follower count. They're not following a huge number of people, but they have showed those videos and they're saying to people, DM me for video info. We haven't done that because we wanted to push this video out. And frankly, normally when someone publicly says, reach out to me for video info, it normally means we want money for you to buy the rights to use that video. I don't know if that's the case here, but we have a policy of not showing vehicle fires most of the time on this channel. We don't like sharing vehicle fires. We don't like sharing crash videos either, especially when we don't know the full story. So just like the Tesla fires that have happened in the past, the rare occasions where a Tesla has caught fire, the rare occasions where other electric vehicles have caught fire, we don't know the full story yet. So we're just going to sit back and wait until we do. I can tell you, based on what I know of the Porsche Taycan, is that it has a really complex cooling system, lots of pipes and radiators to make sure that the battery pack stays at an optimum temperature. We don't know if it was a charging issue. We don't know if it was a cooling issue. We don't know if there was an electrical fault in the garage. All of these things could be possible. And to reiterate, internal combustion engine cars catch on fire really regularly. And it doesn't matter if it's an internal combustion engine car or a battery electric vehicle or a hydrogen fuel cell car. They're all storing large amounts of energy, either in the form of liquid fuel, chemicals in terms of the battery pack, or compressed hydrogen. So they all have the potential to explode, catch fire, whatever. So let's try not to be too extreme in our reaction at this point until we know more. All right, the next story I want to talk to you about is the fact that Holden is no more. General Motors used to own the Holden brand, which was specifically for New Zealand and Australia. It announced yesterday, I believe, that there will be no more Holden. The brand is being scrapped. And that's sad news for anybody in New Zealand and Australia who was hoping that you might see future GM electric vehicles or current GM electric vehicles come to your market. It means that there will no longer ever be the chance of seeing a right-hand drive Chevrolet Bolt or Holden Bolt. The Bolt's older sister, brother, whatever you want to call it, the Volt, was sold in New Zealand and Australia for a limited amount of time. But when GM brought the Bolt with a B to market, it said at that point that it wasn't ever going to make a right-hand drive version. But there was maybe a holdout that maybe somewhere down the line it would change that opinion and maybe make a right-hand drive Bolt. We now know that the Holden brand is dead in those two markets, and that means that no GM cars are going to go to New Zealand on Australia, at least not as import market vehicles, maybe as grey market, but not as import market vehicles. So if you're holding out for a Holden with a plug, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I think that probably also means that we're not going to see the Hummer pickup truck or ute make it to Australia and New Zealand, and that's really sad. It's quite common in the automotive world for car brands to be sold and sometimes to be ended. You know, the Hummer brand was ended a long time ago and is now coming back as an electric vehicle. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Holden is dead forever. But the reason why I suspect it died in Australia and New Zealand is maybe that GM couldn't find a buyer for that particular brand. In Europe, Opel and Vauxhall, which were the GM brands over there, were purchased by PSA, Citroën Peugeot. And so if you look at the new electric Opel or Vauxhall Corsa, it's essentially the same as the Peugeot E208. And that is why those brands have lived on in those markets, because they found a buyer, and I don't think they found one in New Zealand and Australia, which is really sad. On to some more positive news though. Dacia has confirmed that it's bringing an electric car to market. Now Dacia, for those who don't know, is a European brand. It's focused on affordability, and it came back again from the grave probably about 10 years ago now. And this will be the first electric car from the Dacia brand. It's going to be a European version of the Renault KZE, which was the super cheap, affordable car that Renault made for the Asian market, for India and also for China. Now, why the KZE is not just coming to Europe as a European model is this topic of a video that we already put on this channel, so you can go back and look at that. And Dacia is basically going to make sure that the Renault version of that vehicle is given all of the updates and all of the compliance tweaks that are needed to make sure that it is homologated for European markets. And when it is homologated, it will go on sale. And I'm expecting a price tag. I would love a price tag into the high teens, low 20s. Whether that will happen or not is another matter, but definitely after incentives, I think this will be a car that we'll probably see in the teens, which will be fantastic news because it will make electric vehicles far more affordable than perhaps they've been to this point, certainly when compared to some of the other vehicles. In terms of specs, don't expect huge specs. I think we're probably going to see between 150 and 200 miles of range per charge, and not extremely outlandish performance, because Dacia is not a performance brand. It is a rugged, affordable brand, no frills, and that's exactly what we need in the electric vehicle marketplace right now, and it's got me really excited. Will it come to other markets? Well, maybe it might come to New Zealand. It might come to other markets as well where Renault is sold, so watch this space. The other thing that is worth noting is there was a news story today from the teardown of a Tesla Model 3, in which engineers from both Volkswagen and Toyota are quoted as saying that Tesla is 6 years ahead of us, we've got no chance. And a lot of people are going, yay, you know, Tesla is so far ahead of these other brands, they're going to die out. And I don't think necessarily that is the way to look at it. It's worth looking at the Tesla teardown and going, yeah, Tesla is miles ahead of the competition when it comes to some of its onboard technology. But don't let that fool you, because Tesla's developed most of its technology in-house, and a lot of automakers use third-party providers. And as you will have seen, if you went to our CES coverage part of the YouTubes, you'll see that we are covering sensors and other components that are coming into the tier 1 parts market that are not particularly specific to any one make or model. And that means that the technology is there. It's just going to have to be a case of Volkswagen and Toyota buying it in. That's going to cost them money, and then it becomes a case of how much can these companies afford to spend on bringing that technology in-house. They are behind Tesla. They would be 6 years behind if they were to develop it themselves in-house, and I think that's a really important distinction to make. There you have it. That's the update from everything that's been going on. Let me know in the comments below if you like this video, and if you do, we'll maybe make some more of it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And also, why not switch to New Zealand's only carboNZero certified renewable electricity company. I'll be back soon with more great content, but until then, I'm Nikki Gordon Bloomfield. Ka kite. See you next time.